Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ceci Truman Live. This show will be starting in just a few moments, so stay tuned. And if you're seeing this on social media, please like, share, and follow. For more information, go to trumanforcongress.com. This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman. Here's Ceci.
Welcome, everyone, to the Ceci Truman Live show. I hope you all are doing well. We are post-primary elections, and the verdict is still out on many of those races. As in California, we have mail-in ballots still being counted. In Riverside and Imperial Valley alone, there's more than 200,000 ballots still to be counted. And so we will have to wait and see what's going to happen. But please do pray for our state, our nation, because there's so much at stake currently. We know that power is on the local level, whether we're talking school boards, city councils, Board of Supervisors. In California, we've got our Senate and our Assembly people who, their decisions affect our everyday life. And, we as constituents, as candidates, as political figures, we have to keep in mind it's we the people, and it is up to all of us to engage and activate and to be proactive and to, understand how the system works. We need to understand civics and government because, again, these issues, this legislation that gets passed affects every one of us, whether we're talking about the economy, whether we're talking about our children's education and what they're being exposed to, whether we're talking about national security and safety. So all of these things are very, very important. And, I think at this time in history in America, we are at such a pivotal time. And so today, I want to talk about the power of the local level. We are going to speak with David Fenn. He is the mayor of Beaumont. He has served also as a city councilman. He is a husband and a father of 4 sons. Let's see, he's got 1 that is married, 1 that is working, and 2 that are in college. So let's welcome David Fenn, Mayor David Fenn.
Hello. Hello, Ceci. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, David, for joining us. And I did not mention your beautiful wife, Misty, who I absolutely adore. She is just a beautiful woman inside and out. And so what a wonderful family you have, and you are very, very blessed.
Thank you. I certainly am. Misty and I have been married 31 years, and she's been my support in all of this. And I tease her that she's my spiritual radar in moving things forward and so forth, and has been a big help for me.
Right. I mean, it's teamwork. It's definitely, the saying goes to every good man, there's a good woman. And so absolutely, it reflects in who you are as to, what a wonderful person she is and strong Christian woman that she is.
Thank you.
So I wanted to hear your the process of how you became mayor. How did this all begin for you? And you know what? Share with us about the city of Beaumont.
Okay.
What a great city of Beaumont that we have here in our district.
So Beaumont's grown quite a bit. We moved into Beaumont 20 years ago. The population was about 13,000 people, and our population now is about 55,000 people. So we've grown immensely. At times, we're the fastest growing city in the state of California, mostly due to affordable housing that brings everybody out this way. And
Right.
I had the opportunity to work for a new home builder and got the assignment to sell new homes in town. And I couldn't get out of the grocery store. Everybody was running. I was running into all the people that I'd sold homes to. And Misty affectionately teased, said, "You keep this up, you're going to be mayor one day." Well, 20 years later, that came to fruition. We're a general law city where the public votes for the council, and then the council chooses the officers, meaning mayor and mayor pro tem. And we do that on rotation. We don't have any political battle amongst ourselves, on a pitch and, one against the other and so forth. So that part's been nice. We had a council that gets along very well. It kind of stems back to years ago. I was serving in church leadership, and we had our presiding authority make a comment in the room that said, we need good people to serve in local leadership. And it felt like he was talking to me like this. And I remembered that, and I felt strongly impressed by the Lord to say, okay, pay attention, Dave. There may be an opportunity coming up for you, and to go and investigate. So I shared that with a good close friend of mine, Dr. Blair Ball, who's an optometrist in town and serves on the San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency. Long story short, I ended up being appointed to that board, served there for 5 years, served as board president for 2 of those. And then along with him and a trusted colleague, pulled me aside and said, Dave would like you to run for city council. You're a good conservative voice, Christian background. We need somebody good that can help fill, a vacancy that they knew was coming up, because there was one of the council members they knew that wasn't going to run again. And for me, it was the Lord talking to me, and out of the scriptures where you hear out of the mouth of 2 witnesses, it felt like that was the Lord confirming that's what my next step should be. And so I was teasing. I said, okay, I got to go home and talk to my toughest critic, and that would be my wife. I said, but you got my answer as a yes. And came home and talked, and she certainly supported me in that. And then so we put together a campaign to run. And I have a very, very unique situation, and I relied on the Lord to help me with this, is that I paid $600 for my campaign statement, paid $150 at the time for 5,000 postcard flyers at Vistaprint, and we walked neighborhoods.
Yes.
$750 into it, where we have where we've had current council members who have spent $4,000 to $15,000 an election, and I ended up being the top vote getter in mine. We had 3 candidates for 2 positions. We're all at large, but I beat out the incumbent on $750. And what I was able to bring in is some experience with the water agency, but then I was also able to tap into my experience as a real estate broker, and add some connections, and know a few people in the neighborhood and that sort of stuff, and that turned out to be a big blessing. And then when it came time to be mayor, it was more of a routine thing, and we served for a year at a time. But I was appointed as mayor the first Tuesday in December of 2023, and we'll serve for a 12-month term through 2024. And so I'm up for re-election this November. And as mayor, one of the things I wanted to bring back right away was our invocations at our city council meetings. They had drifted.
Wow.
And so, in my opinion, had the wrong order. They would do the Pledge of Allegiance first, which I'm a veteran and I totally support. But they were doing when they had the invocations, it was the Pledge of Allegiance and then the prayer. And I'm like, no, sorry, God be for country. And so the very first thing that I did as mayor is reinstitute the invocation, and in sharing that, with some, pastors in the area and church leaders, they said, hey, if you do that, you pray for the city, you pray for its constituents, the Lord's going to bless the city of Beaumont and bless the residents. And I've had some neat experiences since then by helping to put that together.
I love what you said about when you were campaigning, that your opponents outraised you, but it was the good old fashioned door knocking. And you know what, that works not only for city level, but that works for, assembly races, which are huge. And then, even Congress, what I'm doing, running for Congress, people appreciate the face-to-face contact, that you take the time to reach out to the public, to the constituents. And that means a lot more most of the time than just putting expensive ads out, and nothing wrong with those things, but people want to know that you are going to be there for them, that your heart is in to serve the community, because there's a saying, the greatest of all is the servant of all. And I think that all politicians, people, in seats of authority, we need to have the right mindset that we are here to serve the public. We are here to serve the people and not the reverse, and I think it's just an epidemic that we have, so many of these politicians, they get into these seats and they think that we're there to serve them,
Exactly.
And so I like your heart that you truly want to serve the constituents, the people.
And in doing so, what was brought to my attention is property taxes was the number one concern for our residents. We have a town that's mostly new construction. There's a property tax called a Community Facilities District Tax. The general public knows it as Melrose. So any tract home neighborhood in California built in 2000 and newer, it tends to have that tax associated, and it varies by neighborhood based on the infrastructure that was needed to build it.
Right.
And it's all over town. And so that was a huge issue in the public's mind. And I was able to hear that firsthand, have a conversation with them, share my knowledge as a real estate broker. And then as a campaign promise with it, we have rolled out to our city a transparent program where you can put in the address of a property and get all of the exact details associated with those CFD taxes, termination dates, does it have an accelerator clause, and so forth. So the general public can be more aware of it. And then real estate agents and people coming to investigate to move to Beaumont better understand that, can make an informed decision when they go to purchase a home.
I love that. Yes, I love that. That is a very practical thing. And that is why Beaumont, our community, is growing the way it is because you are incentivizing buyers to come out to, be, eventually they will be contributing taxpayers, in your city. And it's a win-win because they can afford the prices. And, you are being transparent as to what the bottom line will be when they do purchase. And, but yeah, it's only going to benefit the whole city as a whole and grow your city. So I love
Ceci,
that you did that.
Thank you. And if I could add what you're talking about in terms of meeting them in the public, their eyes open up. Wow, you're running for city council and you came to see me?
Yes.
And it's tough because at the national level and news media and so forth, it's easy to figure out what's going on the national level, but it's lost in people's busy schedule to stay on top of what's going on at the local level. And so,
It's true.
They know who they want to vote for president, but they may not know who the city council members are, and so when we go and do that, it really opens up, and then we can have a one-on-one conversation with folks, and that made a big impact.
It is, I think, hard for people to vote on the local level sometimes because the positions are supposed to be nonpartisan. And so I think people want to know, whether you have conservative values or not, because, that will reflect on decisions being made ultimately, with local policies and, laws. And so I think it to a degree it's important, but since we don't have that labeling on the local level, I think it is very important that people do have those face-to-face, meetings or contact, whether it's just a meet and greet type situations or, you're at an event at the local park or whatever the case might be, because they want to know who you are, what your family life is like, and because that who you are is going to reflect on how you will make decisions in office.
Exactly. And that personal touch helps them, and they can then, and when they meet you in person, when you're out and about, they can make that judgment call of how they feel about you, the answers to their questions, is the Lord testifying to them, hey, can I trust this person?
Exactly. I was just thinking the same word, trust. They need to trust their city officials. And so I just love that you are the mayor pro tem. That's so great. Now you are also, you are running for Republican Party Central Committee.
That is correct.
Yes. Explain.
So what that is, and having run for that, I've had a lot of conversations with folks saying, what is that? Because it only comes up every 4 years. And so
Right.
with each major political party, within each major county in California, there's a committee. So for example, I live in the 47th Assembly District. So the county has the political party committees organized by the Assembly District.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a Democratic one, there's a Republican one, and so forth. There are
Yes.
6 members of that committee. I've researched out that there are 6 committees within Riverside County. So then there would be 36 members of the Riverside Republican Committee overall, and that
Mhm.
committee then works on endorsing candidates for higher office. They work on getting the vote out. They work on voter registration, growing the party, getting, and so forth. And I was approached by a conservative local advocate for the Republican Party. And he said, Dave, I don't like the way the direction the Republican Party is going. They're
Mm-hmm.
moving too far left. They're
Yes.
giving up their moral values.
Mm-hmm.
He knew of my background and my religious background and my stance on things, and says, Dave, we need somebody like you to
Mm-hmm.
jump in there and help out. Some of our volunteers for the Republican Party are aging out. Our average age compared to the Democrats, we're quite a bit older in the Republican Party, and we need some younger blood in there. So I'm middle-aged. Okay, fine. I can hold the baton for a few years, a couple decades maybe, and so forth. And so I put my name in the hat on that too. And then it also will help name recognition wise to let those who are local at the city council level for a nonpartisan position to go, oh, David is a registered Republican and is working towards the party. So I think that's going to be a little plus for me for the city council.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for somebody on the other side of the aisle, that might be a turnoff for them, but so be it.
That's true.
And so what's nice about that, and what I've learned in running for city council, and as you pointed out in this race, it takes the county a full 30 days to certify an election.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where somebody may be the front runner now, but there's a lot of votes to count and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I currently stand as of last night for the Republican committee is that, again, top 6 get in. I'm in the number 4th position right now.
Great.
And we maybe end up replacing 3 incumbents. So I am I'm the highest ranking in votes for the non-incumbent coming in.
And
so
what district are you in?
So that is District 47.
47.
For the Riverside County Republican Party Central Committee. That's a mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
But what's nice is we feel then with my new voice coming in that we can kind of keep it conservative, keep it God-centered, and so forth. There was a member of that committee who had made a comment to me about there's too much religion getting involved in this, and the subject of abortion came up, and that fired me up even more to want to. I'd already made the decision to run, but that kind of solidified it when I heard that, because we need to stand firm. People are getting to the point where they're losing their faith. Their kids are losing their faith. They're lost. And if I can help out with keeping morals intact, that I've done my part.
Right. I 100% agree. And I just tell, I'm a candidate for Congress, and I've been labeled, like Steve Garvey was labeled, too conservative for our valley, which I'm really honored that they labeled me that, because I tell people, do not be ashamed to be a conservative. The other side is very loud about what they believe in. And you know what? I respect all people. We're all Americans here. But, the other side is, they're very forward with their messaging. We can do the same thing. We don't have to cower back. We can be bold. We can, I don't like using the word pride because, the Bible says pride cometh before the fall, but, we can be bold for, what we know is, right for our country. Our founding fathers believed in a creator. Our country was founded upon biblical values, Judeo-Christian biblical values. And so we see that, in the last few decades, that society, we have been pulling away from putting God, in the forefront, and we are suffering as a result. I mean, we are seeing, complete lawlessness and abandonment of, just obeying the law, respecting law. And I mean, we're just seeing total chaos now. We are seeing our kids being subjected to the most graphic and vile sex education. I could never have imagined that this would happen so openly and so blatantly to our public school system. And I mean, the list goes on, but we're at a point in history where we need people like you and people like us who we hold to biblical values. Are we a perfect people? No, we are not. But we believe, we have faith in God's word, and we believe that that is the answer to America's woes. And so I don't know, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And a couple things I'll address. One was when you're talking about, too conservative for California. I'm a Republican household, got multiple registered Republicans in my home, and I received 3 hit pieces against Ceci Truman saying she's too conservative. Well, that just fires me up even more.
Right.
And so,
I know. Thanks for
but
all.
we're, morally in California, we've fallen off the cliff. And I read some statistics in terms of registered voters, and I don't remember the percentages, but the highest demographic, comparing male and female, married and unmarried, the highest number of registered Democrats are single females. When those females marry, and there are also more males that are Democrats that are single versus married. But the minute they're married and they start having kids,
yep,
and the life's not all about them anymore and the betterment of their children, more married couples are registered Republicans than they are Democrats. And
That's
I think
right.
it's a sign of society waking up and realizing, okay, there's an attack on our children. There's an attack on the family. I've seen many, many, many religious leaders across the Christian world, when they get together on the national level or even worldwide level, they talk about religious freedoms and all the different attacks that are against us. And that if we let them chip away at it, we're starting to lose the ability to raise our children the way that we are taught by God to do so. And so that's got to stop. And so, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, we're on a little bit of a 3-second delay.
Okay.
We are not called to be cowards. We are to be courageous because we know who wins in the end. And, we have to stand in complete faith that we know that we have disincentivized families by just with our welfare system. We have incentivized single motherhood just with policy alone and legislations. And so I think as leaders that we have to get back to encouraging and incentivizing, whether it's through the tax code or not, people to be married. And because when we have a mother and a father in the home, there's more stability with the child. And, the more fatherless homes that we have, that's when we see, the juvenile system. We have kids that, the statistics are overwhelming that most men that are in the prison system or in the juvenile system come from fatherless homes.
Exactly. And when you have, and men and women are different, but when you have the father and the mother in the situation in the home, then you can help raise a well-balanced child. When you run just one-sided, it's difficult. And
Very
I know
difficult.
there's many houses and it's beyond their control at times, but with just the problems of the world, if they can attack, the family. And if you look at the television shows, who's the bumbling idiot in the sitcom? Right. It's the father, and that needs to stop. And then also too, the deadbeats need to kind of step up to the plate a little bit.
They do.
I grew up in a household that was divorced multiple times, but God gave me enough talent and wisdom to be able to see past that and change the way things are done. I have the longest marriage in my family in 3 generations. That's all my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my siblings, my grandparents, both sets of grandparents, my parents, and so forth. That there's a new way to do things, and that new way really is the old way that God had told us to: marriage between a man and a woman. You know, don't be selfish. Put your best efforts to taking care of your children and teach them right from wrong, and they'll come out as decent human beings, and they'll be able to contribute to society, and you can make the next generation better than the one that you've got. But we've got that attack on all that, and it's just getting worse.
Yes, exactly. So what is your goal as a public servant? What are you hoping to accomplish? And
I thank you for that. I want to be able to rally the religious community. I think they have sat by, because they see the fight between the extreme right and extreme left and go, oh, I don't want any part of that. And I see too many good people re-register as independent and sit on the fence. When they do that, they do not have a voice of who the candidate is. All they can choose is amongst a small pool of people, versus in the primaries, be able to choose who they want to support. And that, and California's a little different for that, but in terms across the board and so on. But what I want to do is get people out of their homes into the community and helping to serve. I help and serve in a church leadership over our youth. And when we would have service projects for them, it was always rewarding. The kids would have fun. They'd get a sense of others above themselves and have a good time hanging out with their friends and doing so. We've got a lot of programs at cities to be able to serve, and to even from trash day pickups to getting involved in the planning commission, or different organizations across the city and the counties. But I want to wake up the religious community to say, hey, there's more of us than them.
There are.
And I wanted to, and as I started, with prayer in the meetings, and what's nice is yesterday I was invited to one of the local church congregations for an anniversary of their building here in Beaumont, to be able to speak to them, and being specifically asked as the mayor to address their congregation, how can they get involved to make the community better? Everybody drives home, closes their garage door and hides out and says, we need to stop that mentality and look out for one another a little bit more. And because we need to, so if we can strengthen the family, we strengthen the community. When we can strengthen the community, we can strengthen the nation, and then we can put it on the right track. If we have a nation that's stuck in sin, we're going to be punished, and we're going to have problems that are associated with it, and we're seeing those consequences today.
I like what you said, because I believe a lot of the church community has cowered back and abandoned their privilege and rights as American citizens to get involved in the process to vote. There is a statistic out there that there are approximately 13.5 million churchgoers in California, and that's predominantly Christian and Catholic faith, who 50% vote in the generals, 50% are registered to vote, only of 13.5 million. 25% vote in the generals of that number, and 10% vote in the primaries of that number. So we've got the numbers, but and there's something during the Revolutionary War, the Black Robed Regiment, and those were the bishops, the pastors that preached the gospel. And it was during the fight with England, the King of England, and they had to fight the British, the Redcoats, and the pastors would remove their robes and join the militia and go and physically fight. And so, what that tells me is that we have to have feet to our faith. I talk to so many people and they say, oh, it's going to work out, God's in control kind of thing. And like you said, they go in their homes, shut their garage door, and they just hope the problems are going to go away. And that's the same as putting your head in the sand. That's not going to do any good when we have evil running rampant, and pretty soon that evil's going to come to your doorstep. no one's immune to what is happening out there. Doesn't matter you live in the country or, in the city. It's gonna show its ugly face one of these days. And none of us are safe. None of us are immune to, what is happening, what we see on, news or what have you. But, it's time for the church to lead in the charge. We need to lead the charge because, we've got the Holy Spirit. What are we to fear? And the Bible says, do not fear man who can harm the body, but fear God who can take our soul. And God requires us to not be cowards. That is an abomination to him. And so I'm not calling everybody a coward, but what I'm saying is we've got to be bold. And we can't just think of our own, our own situation, our own family. We need to think outside of that. We've got a whole generation of kids that need good leadership, biblical leadership. Because, when the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. When evil people are in power, the people groan. And right now, what I'm witnessing is a lot of groaning.
Exactly. And a story comes to mind from the scriptures, isn't that when Christ says, love thy neighbor as thyself, and he was asked, who's thy neighbor? And then he tells the story of the Good Samaritan. And that, it's a timeless story of looking out for somebody else and helping out one another. Then when we do that, we're showing love, we're showing Christ-like example, and we're pointing others to our Savior. And that's going to help direct them to help those individuals then start to relieve personal revelation so then they can make good changes in their lives to be able to strengthen their families and so forth. And so we just need some folks to stand up and do so. My wife and I were talking just this morning about would we rather be a Bible scholar or would we rather be a doer, and going out and doing the work? And we tend to be more of the doers and out there,
Yeah.
out in the streets and working to spread the news to say, hey, California hasn't fallen off the cliff. There's still good people here. When I moved to Beaumont, I discovered right away that the San Gorgonio Pass area, which covers from Yucaipa through Calamasa, Banning and Beaumont, and even Cabazon, that we're a little Bible Belt through here. There's a lot of churches. But then in talking to some of those leaders, they're losing some of their membership because of all the distractions. Life's too expensive. They're work all the time, and so forth. That we can bring their back to God. And so if they can do that, and then again, as I mentioned, we can strengthen the family, strengthen the community, and get rid of some of the nonsense that's going on.
There's an acronym JOY, and one of the quotes that I put on all my materials is that I'm fighting for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, happiness is kind of dependent on environment, but when we say the word joy, that's actually doesn't depend on what is the situation around you, but it's just something that God can give us despite the circumstance, joy and peace. But the acronym of joy is Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. And when we can think that way, we can truly serve our community, because going into office is not, it needs to be an unselfish motivation. It has to be that you want to serve the people, because there's so many people suffering right now, so many people struggling to put food on the table, gas in the tank, trying to hang on to that job. I mean, it's very scary for a lot of families. And this is a time where we need God even more so. And so, I want to implore people, go back to church. If you've kind of strayed, go back and be a part of the church community where people can, it's not just about you getting encouraged, but you might encourage someone else. It's we reinforce each other, and there's power in numbers. And, God works through, I think there's a command that says, don't, what's the verse that I'm thinking of, but don't forsake the assembling of yourselves. And that's not like a suggestion. God's telling us, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves in a church environment. And so there's a reason, because there's a protection there. If we are the stragglers, if we're aloof from the body of Christ, then you're kind of pickings for the enemy. It's kind of like in a setting of like predator, when there's a tribe of animals and then the predator is kind of saying, he's on the outskirts seeing who's going to pick off, so we've got to stay in the center of, Christ's presence. And, we need to be with his people, not only for ourselves, but, to bless others also.
Exactly. And if I could I share a story that I had as mayor?
Absolutely.
So we had an affordable housing apartment complex open up in Beaumont, and the CEO reached out and wanted myself, the mayor, to come and speak. And I knew there'd be other dignitaries there, a county supervisor, and so forth. And I was given a list of bullet points to cover in a talk, and I was getting ready for that morning, and I thought, and I got inspiration to do something different. And so before I say what it is, I went, as I got there this morning, I went to the CEO, because I'd met her before in another project, and said, can I do such and such? And she said, sure, that'd be great. And while there, they said, oh, Mr. Mayor, while you're here, there's a little young man that'd like to meet you. And I turned around, and this young man was there. I don't want to give his name, but little 8-year-old boy that wanted to be a police officer. Mm-hmm. And I had met him 2 or 3 months prior at a holiday event that we had at the city, and he was telling me they want to be a police officer. So I reminded him about that, and he had forgotten he met me, and his face got real big. And I told him, hey, when you turn 16, you can be an explorer. So make sure, and his mom was there, so she knew it. So mom took a mental note and so forth. And so then what I'd asked to do is in my talk, I'd asked, can I offer a prayer for the building and the residents? So in my prayer, we blessed the building. Well, the bookend of that, and the second testimony to that was the guest speaker who was a resident, was this young boy's mother. And wow. She spoke about how hard and how often she prayed to be able to be accepted into that apartment complex so she can have a place to raise her son in a safe environment and so forth. And I was holding back the tears.
Wow.
And it was just such a neat thing that in my capacity, I was thinking, what can I do different? What value can I add? And the Lord said, go pray for him. And so I did. And then she talked about and how much she pleaded to the Lord to be able to live there. And I got a lot of compliments afterwards. I didn't do it for that, but I just felt, how can I contribute? How can I set a good example? How can I show that there are good people out there, that we love and care for our neighbors, and encourage them to do the same? Look out for each other. Let this place be a safe haven for them. Let them grow and raise their children in a safe environment and so forth. And it was just an absolute treat. It was just the neatest experience.
And that's what community is all about. It's all about serving one another and not being our own islands. Yes, we have to, we're responsible for our own families. But, we always want to look out for others because there's always going to be someone in need. There's always going to be, that latchkey kid that, comes home from school by himself and, doesn't have a family environment to come home to. They come home alone, or, there's just so many situations, you just never know who's missing a meal, or who's, struggling with a family member who's very ill, so it's good for us to have that community mindset because, we're all here to love one another and to serve one another. And that is the heart of God too. And that is, we're made in his image. And so that's, in our hearts already. And it's just, it's better to give than to receive, the saying goes, but, because there's more blessing in giving to others. I mean, I'm sure you'll never forget that story you just shared. That.
I could be done in politics. Yeah, I could be done in politics right now, and it's mission accomplished, just even from that one single event. And I had the opportunity to share that with one of my church leaders, and he pointed out, he says, Dave, not everybody knows how to pray. And some people think that it's the pastor to pray. But if they can see that the mayor will pray on their behalf, it might inspire somebody to call on the Lord who hadn't done so before and develop that relationship with Christ. And I just, even more rewarding hearing that.
Yes. Something sparked as you were talking, and there are a lot of people out there that don't realize that they can run for office because, we need more godly people to run, people who, are steadfast in their faith and strong in their faith, who have leadership ability, but don't realize or had never thought of running for any type of city, maybe city council or school board, or, county supervisor, or, you mentioned water board. There's so many places that people can plug in. And it could start by just going to your once a month city council meeting or your once a month school board meeting and just listen to what is going on within your community. And that's a good way to not be overwhelmed by, what do I do? But, everybody has a lane, everybody has a part. And it's kind of like our body, we've got, different body parts, ears, eyes that do different things. And we are, in essence, a body of people. And, we need to ask God first and foremost, where would you have me to serve? And there's just so many places that we need good people, right, David?
Exactly. The Lord has given us all talents, every one of us, and we need to help, we need to develop that, or we're considered an unprofitable servant. But there are many ways, as you point out, to do that. And even one of the simplest ways is, even in the comfort of your own home. For example, the city of Beaumont, we do a YouTube live broadcast of our council meetings, and then it's recorded and put on YouTube so you can go back and watch any meeting at any time. That's with our planning commission, finance and audit. We even have a parks and rec committee. There's a lot of opportunities just within the city. Then you, as you point out, school board, there's water agencies, and so forth, or even just the fact of just helping out in someone's campaign. To learn more about people. If there's a particular elected official that someone feels like that they connect with, go have a conversation with them. Find out if there's a need on their staff, if they need some help with that, or if it's just helping to go knock doors. Sometimes that can be intimidating, but there's a lot of different things. Or just even, and my wife is fantastic at this, share your thoughts and feelings online. When you see a post on something, like it, share it, comment on it, and so forth. The way these algorithms are set up, that as they get more, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
More exposure to it, it builds. And so then it goes, as they say, goes viral, and then the outreach to it shows up in more people's feeds, and then more can see it, and so forth. That's a way that you can do that from the comfort of your own home and whatever schedule that you have. Put some good comments out there on something you like. If there's something you don't like, then share why you don't, but, always be respectful, so you're not banned for, comments, and be the Christian that you are, and agree to disagree agreeably, as we're taught, and make your voice heard. There's many ways you can do it. And I think if someone asks the Lord, how can I help? And if they listen for that answer, they'll get prompted on how to be able to serve their community.
And, I think that what is missing in our society and education system is civics and how government works. I think one great way to teach children about civics is to, fathers and mothers, take your kids with you. Don't just go and, get behind a candidate by yourself. Make it a family day. It could be, go hold up flyers or put, flyers on doors for candidates, do rallies for a candidate as a family. And, your kids will never forget doing that. And you might even inspire your own child to one day serve in politics, because, government was created by God. Politics is what man has distorted and exploited. And so it kind of gives it a bad name. But, I think, like you said, there is always hope. There's always hope for a nation. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, will seek my face, will turn from their wicked ways, then God says, I will hear from heaven, I will answer your prayers, and I will heal your land. And so, if we go back in history, we had the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II. We had, many wars, but, had those people back at that time, those eras, given up on America. I mean, think of Revolutionary War, the Tea Party movement. We would not be talking to each other now. We wouldn't have the same country we have now. And, war has been declared on America. We are at war. It's a different type of war. It's a silent war. It's a war without bullets for the time being. And so I think it's time for families, churches, conservatives, we need to be active. We need to find where can we plug in. And again, I say pray, ask God, because only God can, like you said, we are all given talents and gifts, where we can plug in, but the need is there, definitely there. You're an excellent candidate. I'm so happy that you're going to be in Central Committee. It kind of looks like you are. I'm neck and neck. I'm about 2.5 points off going to the generals for Congress to be able to go against the Democrat incumbent. So, we'll see what's going to happen. But, it's a process. This has been an education for both of us. I mean, some things we just learn as we go, but, it is a step of faith to run for office, and you do it with God's help, and where God guides, God provides. So,
and something I've learned too, that there's stepping stones to things as well. Sometimes we fall short, and the Lord has another plan. Maybe it's a learning experience for us. Some things are harder than others. Some come easier for others. But if we do our part, He'll help us, and we'll certainly grow from that. And I was so happy that my wife and I were able to meet with you and to hear your message and so forth. And we certainly support you and wish you the best, in your efforts. And should you, wherever you end up, we want to stay in touch and follow you and support you in your efforts as well. That you're a great voice, for the community, and we love what you're doing.
Well, I'm honored to know you, Mayor David and Misty, and I support you 100% as well. And I know God has great plans in store for you and the city of Beaumont. And, God's going to do what God's going to do. He might even expand that territory. So, we need good people in our nation. So I'm highly encouraged by you, and I just know that I'm with you as well, and I support you 100%. And what a blessing for our community of Beaumont to have someone like you in leadership. So I want to thank you so much for being on this show, the Ceci Truman Live Show, and we'll have you back again, absolutely. And please give my best regards to your wife Misty and the family, and we will be seeing each other, I'm sure, soon.
Very nice. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity. Take care. God bless.
God bless you. God bless you, and God save America.
This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman.